Hello there, Steve here in Sydney of the lay gnosis website truebluehealer.com. I'd just like to do some additional commentary on the collapse of the skeptic empire and the tumultuous events occurring almost on a day-to-day basis. And I do fear the terrible disappointment about the revelation that James Randi is only an employee, and the real power behind the throne is operating the whole show. He's taken James Randi's name off the Skeptic Forum now. It's now called the International Skeptics Forum. His name's been taken off it, which must be quite a blow. The chat line was turned off for a while it was being modified, and or even the moderators lost their rights, you see. So very clearly it's being shown here that JREF is being operated entirely by Rick Adams, the multi-billionaire who's in bed with General Dynamics, the military-industrial contractor. So now we know who's really the boss, and now the problem is that the average pseudo-skeptic, if he can join a few dots, which is doubtful, the average pseudo-skeptic will be able to figure out, perhaps with the assistance of some of their more gifted spokesmen, we'll be able to figure out that they've been working for 20 years for the military-industrial complex rather than James Randi. Now, first of all, I'm thinking this might lead to a handful of suicidal things, suicidal outcomes, maybe even some mass suicides, group suicides, I don't know. But I'm going to tell you why I think this right now, so here we go. First of all, we start off with what makes a skeptic. A skeptic is basically a pathological denialist because they have a problem that occurred during childhood in terms of physical brain development. Sometimes due to father deficiency or other things that I'm not so sure about. They don't ever develop the physical brain ability to discern a dot pattern of evidence. So as normal people see bits of evidence coming together, it forms a picture in their mind, and that's called their own personal opinion. And this basically happens with maturation hormones around age 12, when you start deciding whether you want to believe something or not. Previous to that, most young people, children, have a tape recorder sort of memory where they memorize everything, whatever the teacher says. It's only when you're about 12, 13 you start to dislike some things the teacher might be saying. This is the beginning of your personality also. And you start saying, well, I don't like that, it offends me, I'm not going to go with that, I'm not going to believe that for the rest of my life. That's the beginning of growing up, maturation, you see. It's done with adolescent hormones. Now, not everyone gets through this stage. Some people keep the tape recorder brain of function where they listen to everything they've heard and can't discern it because they lack this ability to join the dots and form a picture. And we notice this about many pseudo-skeptics. I'm sure you've all seen this yourselves. So what option does a person have who's grown up, he's 18, 19, 20, and he's never been able to figure out his own opinion about anything? Well, all he can do is be terribly gullible and believing everything he's told. And it's Santa Claus is one of the things that points up how gullible they can be, these people. They tend to believe in Santa Claus and other fairy tale things like the Easter Bunny that skeptics are always talking about for a lot longer than everybody else. And it normally comes as a crushing blow just to how gullible they have been, you see. So they end up going through an extended period of self-hating, self-loathing, self-detestation, and they vow that this is so shocking, so awful, that it can't be allowed to ever happen again. So they decide to become a professional unbeliever, a non-believer, an anti-believer, and they never believe anything ever again. So that's why they call themselves skeptics, because they very foolishly believe that saying no and disagreeing with everybody will protect them from ever being gullible ever again. Okay? That's what makes a lot of skeptics. Now, it turns out there are more traumatizing things awaiting the pseudo-skeptic, the self-styled skeptic. There are more traumatizing things than discovering that the Easter Bunny and Santa Claus is not real after all. More traumatizing things than that. Because just when you thought it was safe, in 1996, you signed up with James Randi to become a skeptic. And these people who have got this minor amount of brain damage, maturation hormones didn't cut in and enable people to create their own opinions about things. James Randi's there waiting for you, the great father figure, and he shows you how to abrade and abuse other people, head kick Christians, they're all illogical, that sort of thing. They should all be trained to be rational like you, who believed in Santa Claus longer than everybody else, right? So some solace you obtained by teaming up with James Randi, being radicalised by other people just like yourself, and you spent the next 20 years of your life basically avenging your own grief, head kicking everyone you meet, in particular religious people, believers in Psi and Wu, that sort of thing. They all need to be punished for their irrational beliefs, right? Okay? And you were egged on by some very easy to remember maxims from James Randi, like there is no evidence, that sort of thing. Dash, just you fill in your own thing at the end of that. Just keep saying there is no evidence, there is no evidence. And never actually look at evidence, and implying that everyone you speak to is a liar by demanding the references, like you never provide yourself, but demanding everyone else should provide you with references. This is a disease which has just about destroyed YouTube. Okay, YouTube very nearly succumbed to this, made it useless and very unpleasant to use. Okay, so when you thought you couldn't be any more gullible, after you got over the Easter Bunny and the Santa Claus thing and all the other myths that you believed way too long, just when you thought it was safe and you'd done 20 years of head kicking all over the internet and the self-help therapy you'd done was great and you were feeling better about yourself, maybe a little bit, and you suddenly learned that the thing that you stepped into, the James Randi Foundation since 1996, is actually a complete full-blown scam run by the military-industrial complex. That James Randi's only an employee, and he recently had his name embarrassingly taken off the JREF forum. It's now gone to another title, International Skeptics Forum. And the real power behind the throne that cut off everybody's, even the moderators were cut off everybody's access rights to the forum, is none other than multi-billionaire Rick Adams, who's in bed with the military-industrial complex. He's the landlord for the General Dynamics headquarters. He's that rich. He's worth $2 billion. Yet surprisingly, he's the unpaid treasurer. That's who you've been working for all this time. You have not been doing anything for James Randi. You've been doing, he's an employee. You've been working for the military-industrial complex to stop people thinking on their own about military and political and economic issues. Okay? So that's what you were recruited for, unwittingly, unknowingly. You were very gullibly taken in. So it concerns me now that once this dawns on people, that grown people can be so gullibly taken in by the skeptic movement, that they may consider this is the worst thing that's ever happened to them in their life, and may consider self-euthanasia. Now, surprisingly, James Randi supports this kind of thing. He thinks, he did a rant in a book a year or two ago, William Storr, S-T-O-R-R, the book is on Amazon, where he said that people who take drugs, mentally deficient people, should be put out in a field somewhere, and Darwinist natural selection should be allowed to weave its magic upon them. That was his code word for Holocaust as far as I could see. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe I misread that page. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. Please do tell. But it seems James Randi would endorse mass suicide and great drama around his name, and it being revealed that he is not really the boss at all and never was of the JREF Foundation. What do you think about this, people? I mean, seriously, if ever the skeptics wake up to how gullible they have been, it could lead to some suicides, possibly in large numbers, because, I mean, you've only got to look at the words put in their mouths. Conspiracy theorist. They call everybody. They call everybody else gullible, which is the worst crime in their own personal lives. By the way, the word gullible is not a normal adult word. We don't use it. It's peculiarly a skeptic's own word. It's their worst fear that they wish to visit on other people, because it's one of the great traumas of their own personal lives. But don't you think, dear skeptics, it's preposterous for a multi-billionaire to worry about money being wasted on mediums contacting the dead? Multi-billionaire, man worth $2 billion, Rick Adams, owner-operator of JREF, really cares about a few dollars being given to mediums? Whether they're genuine or fake, does it really matter? I mean, how preposterously gullible can you be? The real reason for the military-industrial complex trying to combat conspiracy theories, which is one of the things put in your mouth, you type in front of everybody's face. Anyone joining the dots, a normal person can do this, is a conspiracy theorist according to you. But then, so are policemen solving crimes. It's the only way to solve a crime, become a conspiracy theorist. And I was reading Russia Today last night, and they were saying that America is responsible for 2/3 of the wars on the planet at any one time. And there's a lot of money made in warfare, and it costs a fortune. I've seen the figures that America's got $17 trillion worth of debt due to military Keynesianism, vast amounts of taxpayers' money being handed into the military-industrial complex to keep the economy going, and people like Rick Adams and the Crown family of Chicago, they don't want anyone joining the dots, figuring out that they can't keep going this way. They want the gravy train of taxpayers' money pouring into corporate coffers indefinitely to continue. And it's got anyone with that thought typed into Google has to have it squashed. And it's been noticed by some pretty clever people on YouTube that if you just type the phrase conspiracy website into Google, #1 ranking on the search is, amazingly, or was, JREF. Can you believe it? And inside that was 500 military professional head kickers waiting to call you an idiot, a fool and a moron, mentally ill, etc. for daring to join the dots and say, where's all my taxpayers' money going? And that's what JREF has always been, and you've joined in, head-kicking religious people too. This is far worse than discovering Santa Claus was fake when you were 14 or something, right? That's the problem. It's far worse than that, and I do fear for the mental condition of a lot of these skeptics when they slowly wake up to the fact that James Randi has never been in charge of the JREF Foundation. He's not the boss. Today, his title, as the LA office closed, was temporary president only. Only that, nothing else. In fact, it's looking like the JREF Foundation might have outlived its usefulness and could be dispensed with by never being spoken of again in public matters. I don't know whether his whistle-stop tour around Australia is really going to happen now. He's going to show his 2-hour video in some small Australian flea pit theatres. I don't see that as any great triumph. I see it as almost like a funeral march for his reputation. This might have some serious emotional effect on the pseudo-skeptics who revere him as a surrogate father figure. They do talk about him in reverential religious terms, wanting to deify him, canonize him, mummify him, etc. And the fact that each and every skeptic since 1996 has been taken for a ride in one of the greatest political, economic, military scams ever, and you all fell for it, you guys, you people. You really do think that a multi-billionaire cares about mediums being given a handful of dollars once in a person's lifetime? Ha, ha, ha. Now, if, dear skeptic, you do get to the point where you realise that you've been part of a 20-year scam, you signed up, and despite being a skeptic, you've been taken for a ride again with the master scam artist James Randi himself, who's only an employee, and all this time you've been so gullibly scammed it's laughable, and you start to feel, well, is life worth living? Can I really live with myself and this level of deception that I fell for yet again while calling myself a skeptic? Just wait for a while, you'll get over it. It's only a matter of time. Just hang in there. Okay, I don't advise doing anything serious, anything final. Just wait, you'll get over this. There's life outside the pseudo-skeptic movement. Get a real life that consists of doing something productive in society. By that I mean not head-kicking everyone you meet online. Get some other more productive lifestyle, okay? I'll leave you with that.